Hi, I'm Becky Rose Dungeon Gal, and yes, my channel is very quiet this time of year. I'm not putting out regular content because it's the Christmas season, or Yuletide, Saturnalia, whatever else you want to call it. Yule in Norway, Sinterklaas in Holland. No, that's separate to Christmas. Anyway, seasonal stuff, holidays, partying, alcohol, cold, broken toe, migraine, Christmas shopping, all that kind of stuff. So I've been doing a lot of real life roleplay, not much on my channel because, partying and stuff. So I've got some cool things coming though. Really cool, actually, some of it. I'm going to do a new GM tip series on world building because after reading the Sword Coast Legends book from Wizards of the Coast, I've resolved myself to making sure that nobody ever again makes a world setting that bland and drab. So I'm going to do a tip series on how to build a cool fantasy world, and I'm also going to be running a new game. It's based on the Moraine city-state, the adventure that the Forged Templars adventure is doing. The last adventure of that just couldn't take place. We just ran out of time up to Christmas when we could get everyone together, and then people are off doing different things. I mean, Mark, bless him, dialed in from several different countries each episode that we did. I think he dialed in from India, from London, from Ireland, from South Africa. But in the end, ultimately, other players were all off visiting family and stuff, and so Christmas. So, but I thought, it's kind of okay that episode finished in a very, or that series, the campaign finished in a very dramatic way, and I don't think I could quite top it anyway. So as an ending, it was okay, but it was quite open. So spoilers here for anyone who wants to watch that series, and what comes next will be a spoiler. So at the end of that, the players are blown out of the top of a half-mile-high tower, and they turn into the dragons, the winged trinity, that the whole campaign they'd been learning about this winged trinity, these creator dragons. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the next campaign in the same city at the same time as they're getting blown out of the tower. So I'm going to start with the Dragon War. The players have asked for a slightly different tone. They've asked they want an adventure or quest type adventure, and they wanted there to be a kind of dark and tragic theme. They still want a bit of epic, and they still wanted, something, other element I have to incorporate. That doesn't matter. Anyway, so it'll have a slightly different tone, but a new series coming, Return of the Winged Trinity, will be starting in January. So to tide you over until then, I've dug up one of these question things, like answer these questions about yourself on role playing, and I thought I'd go through those. There's 30 questions, so but I'm going to make some changes in here. Let me show you something actually. I'll introduce you to the characters from the game. Now to get them up, I have to cast this spell here, and spell card says click that button. That's what it says. Right, I'm going to click that button. So this is going to cast the spell. Ready? And here they are. These are I've lost my background. I didn't set it up. That was stupid of me. Anyway, these are the characters. This is character overlays. They're animated. How cool is that? So we did the thing before where we took the character overlays, and as they got wounded, the pictures became more blooded and injured. But this time I thought I'd go a step further and actually do CGI characters. So we've got this Goliath, wrong end, right. We've got this Goliath barbarian over here. We have a tiger folk monk. We have a halfling bard, and we have an elven ranger. These are the characters that will be playing in the campaign with these animated CGI character overlays. I haven't done the name banners yet. That sort of banner across the back is where the character names will be. But I haven't all chosen their names yet. The tiger folk here, he's called Savannah. So yeah, that's them. I'm going to go back because I forgot to set up my green screen on the other thing. So anyway, so 30 questions about me and role playing. Alright, I'm going to go through these as quick as possible. Question 1: how I got started. Well, at school, I was a nerd with no friends. I had one friend. That one friend invited me to a local youth club where they did role playing, and that's how I got started. And from there, I moved when I was young, and I moved to a different town, and one of the first jobs I got was in the town that I moved from. So when I did that job, one day I just thought, I'm going to go and see if my old friends from my childhood still live there. And I knocked on their door, and they still lived there. And I spoke to the brother of one of my childhood friends, and he was a role player, and he said, well, tell you what, I'm playing a game out your way this week. Why don't you come along? So I did, and that's where a lot of my oldest friends actually come from as well. So and I've role played with them, ever since, never stopped. So that's question 1. That's how I started. Question 2: favorite playable race. I don't know if I necessarily have one. I have played quite a lot of elves, but that's mostly because of question 3: favorite playable class. And for me, I like characters who are sort of all about the action. When the fight starts, I like to kind of get in there. So I like to play a melee character, and I like the whole dual building thing. So I tend to play rangers, especially as they get a few spells as well. Even though they're mostly utilitarian, I like that aspect. But I wouldn't even necessarily say that. I don't play rangers exclusively. I don't play elves exclusively. I like to try all the different sort of options available. I'm kind of decided that the next character I'd like to play will be a warlock, because I kind of like the whole idea of the kind of like the dark pact, trying to do something good, but made a pact with like a Faustian pact in order to achieve it. Question 4: favorite game world. Well, I like doing fantasy games. I prefer them to other genres. So I don't know if I necessarily have a favourite game world. Like if you look at all the off-the-shelf D&D ones, I find them lacking. Eberron is ridiculous. Droids walking around and stuff, and flying boats. I don't mind the idea of flying boats, but they made it, the commonality of it, and androids or droids, or the Warforged I'm talking about. But obviously it's the C-3PO R2-D2 thing. It's supposed to be a fantasy game, so I don't really like any of the Wizards of the Coast ones. I suppose if you go out of D&D, I quite like doing steampunk stuff. I do like sci-fi, especially if it's like a despotic future, like corporations gone into overdrive. I like the corporation setting. That was like music to my ears when I discovered that at a role-playing convention. I picked up the corporation book, and it's like, oh wow, this is like the Syndicate computer game from when I was a kid. So so next one is your favourite set of dice or individual die. Well, I don't really have a favourite set of dice or even an individual dice. What I do like though is odd dice. Now, I actually have a D2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, a 16, an 18, a 20, a 22, a D24, a D30, a D50, a D60, a D100. I don't have a D34. Reason being, they don't make them in the right colour. All of my dice of all the odd sizes, they're all white with black writing. And they never made a D44 that was white with black writing. So I don't have one of those. Damn. I'm a bit of a sucker for dice. I have quite a lot. There was a post recently in one of the RPG communities, how many dice sets do you have? And people are like, oh, I've got 5, I've got 7. And I'm looking at my dice going, 20 sets, maybe? Well, that's in my main game box. I have another one over there. Anyway, oh, sorry, I just had a text from my sister about Christmas presents. Right, so, favourite edition. Well, that's very D&D. So I've got to say, I never really got into second. I kind of never saw the point of it. I kind of stayed with first, and I was never a big fan of first edition really until about sort of 5, 6 years ago. Uh, I hated the way the THAC OAC system worked. It's just ridiculous, and there's a lot of flaws in first edition that I don't think they solved in second edition. Third edition, I never really, I didn't. I could see why it was considered for a long time like the best edition of D&D, but it just, I never got into it. I never sort of bought all the stuff for it. Fourth edition, uh, I'm not going to slate it. So fifth edition, I think, came along, and I think it was a real breath of fresh air. It fixed so many problems. It does have flaws. Its skill system is abysmal, and I think needs a rewrite. I think the whole that the single proficiency bonus that goes up every few levels isn't enough, because it means that what you gain every level is essentially combat prowess. And I'd like to be able to work on my skills and stuff, and that's missing from fifth edition. But aside that flaw, and it's a major flaw, but aside that flaw, I think for me fifth edition is the best edition of D&D now, which is why I've gone over buying all the stuff for it. Favorite character I have played? Gosh, I've been role playing so many decades. I've played so many games. I don't know if I could remember a favorite character. Stop texting. I'm filming. Sorry, it's my phone going ballistic. That's a tough one. I don't think it's like favorite character moments. I've already mentioned one on this channel before when I was playing that. It was kind of ruined by one of the players, but it's a particularly fantastic setting that Jenny came up with on the Rogue DM's channel, and I played that ghost and had that sort of really dark introduction. That was awesome. And various others. I think that's all kind of been mentioned before. But so favorite character I have played was also the next question is favorite character I haven't played. So does that mean another character at the table, or is this really talking about race and class combinations? Gosh, favorite character I haven't played. I don't know how to answer that. I have no recollection. Well, I suppose there was an NPC. You know what? Favorite character I've played? I played this character in a Rollmaster game. It was a game where we were swapping GMs, and I had this character that obviously when I was GMing was in the background, so sometimes she was an NPC, but sometimes she was a player character when somebody else was running a particular section of the campaign. And she was this genetically engineered, I think they call them transhumans, and she was really, really amazing at the stuff she did. And I kind of based her a lot off of Ultraviolet, like the Mila Jovovich film. And she did some awesome stuff, like riding along on a motorbike, escaping with cars pursuing her, and wheeling up onto the back of a moving spaceship, and which then sort of takes off and stuff. That kind of stuff. I had a lot of fun playing her. Favorite character I haven't played? I still don't know how to answer. What does that mean? I have no idea. I'm not sure I know how to answer that question. A favourite character that somebody else played, maybe. Gosh, that's hard. Don't you know I'm a narcissist? I'm going to skip it for now. I might come back to it. Question 10. Craziest thing that happened to you, or that you saw happen to a party character player. So craziest thing to happen. Well, I did the other day. I was playing Call of Cthulhu, and I was playing this. I was playing like a mechanic type person. It was a steampunk Cthulhu, and we were breaking into this government office in a fascist state, and there was a guard dog, and we'd already established my character had a banana on her. For reasons I won't go into. So I pull out the banana and I go to the doctor type character, and I'm like, quick, put some drugs on it, anything, opium, chloroform, anything, because this doctor had been using chloroform and opiums and stuff. And she's like, I haven't got anything that would do it. I said, just anything, anything. So I haven't got anything that would do it. So the GM's like, the guard dog is now right up on you. What do you do? I was like, well, I throw the banana at it. It's what I had. you know. Either way, I've got to get this banana out of my hand, right? So that's when the GM uttered the words, roll to hit the guard dog with your banana. I had another one where I was playing this dwarf cleric, I think, and I was charging this battle line of orcs. I wanted to use the character who had a lot of presence and charisma, so I wanted to use that to try and gain an advantage, intimidation. So I'm like, I let out a mighty battle cry as I charged toward the enemy, and the GM's like, what do you shout out? And I was like, well, let's see what the character does, see how effective it is. And of course I rolled a 1, so the GM's like, you shout daffodil. So that happened. Favourite adventure that you have ran? I think, although it didn't necessarily make great viewing, but in terms of its story and its writing, I'm going to go with my Brawlers game. I did show a couple of one game live streamed and one or two edited games on my channel, but the because it's this fantastic world that had like so many Armageddons going on, and it was a sandbox campaign and all sorts of stuff going on, so it kind of had everything. And that's a campaign that's run for a year and is still going. It's got another session or 2 to run, and then there are no more Armageddons I could throw at the place without thinking of new ones. So, favourite dungeon type or location? I don't know if I have a favourite location. But that kind of touches on one of the things I'm going to talk about in my world building videos is, so many worlds have one sun and one moon. Why? It's fantasy. It's a different world. In fact, there's so few planets have one moon. Like Earth is the weird exception, although arguably it has a couple of extra satellites further out anyway. But so I like to take players up to the moon and stuff. Something else that happened in my Brawlers game, a game which has 2 suns, only 1 moon though, but the moon did try to crash into the planet. That was a whole quest line they had to deal with. Anyway, favourite trap or puzzle? That's difficult because puzzles are used once. Once you've done a puzzle, you kind of have to not use it again, because players know it. But I like to build my puzzles and my traps into the story and into the adventure. So I don't really have a kind of pit trap, spiked pit trap or something like that. I rarely do that kind of stuff. I like to build this stuff into the quest itself, because otherwise if you give players like a code on a bit of paper, they'll make a roll to see if the character solves it. And in some ways it's quite right that they would do that. And because it's not meant to be them solving it. It's particularly harsh if you've got a wizard being played by, let's say, somebody who themselves isn't that smart. The character might well solve it, and it's meant to be a story about the character, not the player. So I like to kind of build things into the environment that are just part of the adventure. So I don't necessarily know if I have a favourite, to be honest, because that implies you reuse something, and I don't. So I would say it's not possible to have a favourite puzzle or trap. Favourite NPC? For that I'm going to have to leave Dungeons and Dragons. Back to that Rollmaster campaign. I introduced an NPC, and kind of inspired by Jane and Firefly, I called this guy Catherine. And he was kind of like Native American kind of style character, but from this kind of like, I'd say, 30s France civilization, pre-war type civilization, um, and he just kept recurring and recurring. So because of that, I kept using, just he naturally recurred a few times. So I started to use him, and so sometimes the players were working against him, and then sometimes the players were actually working with him. Their alignments and their mission would change, so would his over time. And sometimes they would align, and sometimes they would be like working against each other, and it just worked out brilliantly. And of course, when it came to the end of that campaign, like who else could it be than this Catherine character? So that just was like the perfect ending to that campaign. So yeah, my favorite NPC. I'll never forget him actually. Favorite monster, undead. That's interesting because like most of the undead, you either like turn them with a cleric or fight them, and I think there's only so much you can really do with that. But there are some exceptions. Vampires, for example. Ghost. I'm going to go with Ghost because you've got to find out what their unfinished business is and solve it. So, like, you're midway through a dungeon bash, and all of a sudden you've got this mini Cthulhu adventure inside your dungeon bash that you have to solve, and then you get back to your dungeon bash. Ghosts are a quest all by themselves, so they're fantastic. I like them. Favorite monster, aberration. Is a rust monster an aberration? Because they're kind of cool. As a GM, they're awesome. As a player, they're only awesome if you've got ranged weapons. Fighters hate them. Rangers, no, if they've got the bow, they're okay. Yeah. Cleric, no like it. Yeah. There's certain characters that are okay with rust monsters, and there are some that really aren't. Barbarian runs the other way. They can cause that. The rust monsters can cause players to sprint back through a dungeon that they've cleared, and possibly even force them into unexplored areas because they're trying to like kite them, like them, like they're on a string. So yeah, I think rust monsters, because like you get like the big aberration. Obviously, like the most famous, obviously I guess, is the Beholder. But at the end of the day, Beholder's just a fight. It's just about magic resistance and doing enough damage quickly so that those rays don't debuff you. But the rust monster, it's a chase that you're trying to stay in an explored part of the dungeon. I suppose the thing to do with a rust monster, if you place them near the beginning and you got like 5 doors, whichever the first door they go through, make it a rust monster, then the players are going to be opening other doors, trying to get away. Will they all go through the same one? Who knows? Give them a pack of rust monsters and split the party into that room and chase them out different ways. That's fun. You can't do that with any other creature. Nothing instills fear the way a rust monster does. Because like, I've got my +2 sword. It took me 4 quests to find it. There's no way right in its sheath. And my nice armor. No, run. Yeah, by far the best monster ever. Favorite monster, animal or vermin? Well, by the book, there's I'm gonna ignore the vermin part. I don't think you can have a favorite vermin. If you're talking about the real world, and I guess I would say squirrel. But it's not really a D&D monster. No, if you say favourite animal, then yeah, that opens it up a bit more. But yeah, these are mostly real creatures, and I would have to say cat. I love cats. But in a role playing sense, maybe a purple worm or something. I don't know. It's all it's stuff that you either kill or ignore. I can't think of any animal that's really interesting, unless you're kind of doing it in the sense of a druid shape changing. Then there's certainly favourites. In 5th edition, Axebeak, better than the wolf that they give as a sample as your first shape change character to become an Axebeak. Yes, technically it's a bird, but it has no wings. It doesn't fly. It's the best combat stats of all the characters, all the monsters you can be, according to the monster manual and according to the rules of the druid in terms of the CR you can be up to. That's up until level, I think it's level 4, when you can start to become aquatic creatures and have a higher challenge rank, and you start looking at like the black bears and the panthers and stuff. So yeah, so favorite monster from a druid, or sorry, favorite animal from a druid perspective has got to be Axebeak. Although I've never actually changed into an Axebeak. I've done the wolf. I've not actually used the Axebeak. Favorite monster, immortal slash outsider. It's an odd. Immortal? Outsider? What are they talking about? I don't really understand the question. A character that lives forever. How many are there? What do they mean? I'm just going to go for favourite monster overall, and that's got to be the red dragon. And I was having a forum discussion today, actually, when it comes to dragons. I don't like putting young dragons and hatchling dragons in adventurers. I even struggle with the idea of putting in a single adult dragon. Because I always think dragons should be epic, like truly epic. So, like, the lowest I would use is an ancient dragon. And to which somebody said, well, you can't have all your dragons being ancient. You know, where would the next lot of dragons come when that one dies? It's like, no, you don't understand. I'm not against having young dragons. I'm just against having young dragons by themselves. You know, I don't do dragons. I do dragon nests. I don't know. Actually, can I? I'm just gonna. Right. I'm gonna pull up a picture. I have a picture of all of my dragon models of Dragon Nest. I'm not entirely sure where I. Right. Give me a moment. In fact, this is locally doing, so I can pause it. Right. I'm pausing. Ta-da! Yes. Here we go. That's my idea of a dragon nest. Okay, that's what you would find when you encounter a dragon. And in the ideal world, in one of my games, you've got an ancient dragon, 2 adults, a young dragon, 8 or so hatchlings, and then a plethora of underlings, including a sort of giant snake, a salamander, I forgot the name of them, a couple of snakes, you've got some Seventh humans, some hellhounds, you've got about 5 drakes, you've got a fire giant. Yeah, that's a fire giant. That's what you get when you go after an ancient red dragon in one of my worlds. Like that's a proper dragon horde. There's some fire bats there as well. I think didn't mention those. Anyway, you know, it's got to be epic, right? You know, you're going after a dragon nest. You should be taking a fucking army. Anyway. Next question. Favorite elemental plant? Gosh, so many favorite monsters here. Favorite elemental or plant? Well, I'm glad they mentioned plants, because like you had the Bones 3 Kickstarter recently. Let me bring that up. They did a carnivorous plant. Now that happened because yours truly works in marketing, and I wanted a carnivorous plant. I wanted a model for carnivorous plants. So what I did is being a marketeer, is I figured, right, the best way to achieve this is to get a catchphrase. So if you've ever watched Little Shop of Horrors, you've got Seymour who says, "Feed me, Audrey." There's a whole song and everything, stuff associated with it. So just in the comments of the Kickstarter, I'm writing, "Feed me, Seymour." Sorry, plant's called Audrey. He says, "Feed me, Seymour." Yes, that's right. Anyway, right way around in the end. Anyway, so I'm like, "Feed me, Seymour," and it became a whole thing. It was like other people started doing it. So I viral marketed at Reaper Miniatures to make carnivorous plant models, and they did. So they should be coming out next year. Really looking forward to getting those. So yeah, that's got to be my favourite there. Favourite monster: humanoid, natural, or fey? I suppose, you know, I like monsters that inspire quests in and of themselves. So I guess you've got to have the Illithids up there, you know, the Mind Flayers and stuff. You've got to have the Doppelgangers up there. Fae are interesting because, like, the only thing I really know about the Feywild is what I've read in the 5th edition books so far, because I did that whole 1st edition to 5th edition, that kind of skip, I knew a bit about the other editions, but I didn't really read all the books and stuff. I just kind of played the occasional game. So, yeah, I kind of have this sort of knowledge block about the Fae, but it's sort of this interesting kind of, this sort of fairy world, and I guess that's interesting, but I haven't discovered anything yet about the Fae that inspires a whole adventure in and of itself just because this creature exists, whereas Mind Flayers have inspired countless adventures, so and doppelgangers. But I think of the two, I prefer the Illithids. I think they're just that bit darker, so I'd go with them. Favorite dragon color type? Do I need to bring the picture up again? There's one right there. It's got to be the red dragon because it's like the meanest. I quite like the horn shape on the black dragon, and I love what they've done with the wings and the gold dragon. But the red dragon's just mean. Also, I have a small amount of Welsh blood in me, so of course the Dregoch, which is it's the flag of Wales. It's the red dragon, or literally the dragon red because grammar is the other way. But anyway, Idregoch, the red dragon. So yeah, gotta be red. Favorite monster overall? Yeah, it's a red dragon. It's the ultimate campaign baddie. Least favourite monster overall? Well, as a player, I'd say Rust Monster. But that's a hard one because there's been so many monster manuals with so many terrible, terrible monsters. And if I was going to pick one that was just like, alright, let's say just 5th edition, then I'm just going to go with one I haven't got the model for because I can't use it. Most disappointing in terms of when I actually tried to use them, it just didn't work how I imagined it would be the hags, but I know they can be better. It was just an unfortunate circumstance. I don't think I have a least favourite as a GM because that you read all this stuff in Monster Manuals. If you don't like it, you don't use it. So yeah, favourite energy type. I don't think that's a psychic healing question. I think that's they're talking about lightning, sonic, what do they call it, thunder now, that kind of stuff. Well, it'd be the stuff with the least resistances, I suppose. So you'd have to go with, I suppose, thunder, because I can't think of anything that's immune to it. It's bound to be something. Somebody will correct me there, but it's got to be. I can't think of many things immune to that. Whereas anything else, I can come up with a list of stuff that's immune. So yeah, you'd have to go for thunderous. Favorite magic item? I tend to make my own for campaigns. I'll make my own, and then occasionally I'll randomly roll from loot tables. But the key pieces will be stuff that I make up. So yeah, I suppose it. When you're playing a game, you want magic armor, you want magic weapons. I think it's kind of cool when a GM gives you an item that is magic but, and I did a whole video on this and kind of linked to what I use to make my magic item cards and everything. So I've already answered that with like a 20-minute video. But if I just to go with the stuff that's in the book, then it's got to be the secret, the fortress, the cube that you throw out and say the command word turns into a fortress, Dayan's instant fortress or something. I got given that in a campaign where I was playing. I think I was playing a wizard. It was a 1st edition game, and the GM changed it, turned it into Aggie's hut. Some characters called Aggie, and it was basically a witch's hovel. That was my mother's hovel. It had been given to me as a. I think I discovered it in play, but it worked into my character's backstory that the GM had worked out for me, and the whole other story that. But anyway, I had this Dayan's instant witch's hut, and we did this adventure where we were against the Lithids, and it was supposed to be really, really tough and supposed to make us like have to run away and recover, and it was going to be possible player deaths and stuff. So these Lithids are coming at us in this underground tunnel, and I just rolled my hut out, said the command words, and squashed them against the walls, like used it as a grenade. And the GM's like, it works. It works. You know, one of those you bastard moments. So yeah, that's got to be my favourite. Favourite non-magic item? Well, that's all mundane stuff. Let's say castle. You can have adventures in a castle. Um, money. I know, actually in 5th edition there's not much use for money, but unless your campaign world creates one. Favourite non-magic item? I can't even say a weapon because I like to dual wield. You don't have a favourite armour, it's just an AC number. No, rubbish question. A character you want to play in the future? Well, I answered that earlier. It's a warlock. I really want to give a warlock a go. A character you will never play ever again. I think they kind of mean character class, because like every character I create is always a new character, new personality and stuff. So a character class I will never play again. I don't know if there necessarily is one. I have never played a monk. That's yeah, because I think because most fantasy games have that, European kind of setting, and then you've got the monk is basically a Shaolin warrior. I kind of just never really got into that, so I haven't played one. I've seen a few played recently, and they they kind of like they do all the insane things and stuff, and I just kind of feel like they spoil the dark, gritty nature of some games, because they're all like backflip here and flip over that, and it's just it's not that they spoil it, it's just that they change the tone to that, and that almost comic level. I just kind of just feel that they don't really fit with everything else. But then other times I'm kind of okay with it. And I suppose if you're, we have monks in the West, not warrior monks. We kind of, our culture was different. So yeah, they're odd because they kind of force this Eastern culture into at least a little pocket in the game, and the way we mostly solve that in our adventures is by having a remote monastery. um, uh, yeah, they're an odd thing. They're an odd fit for D&D. I'd kind of expect to find that in like an Oriental expansion or something, and I'd expect to have the option for samurai, not perhaps there's a prestige class of fighter or something. But ho hum. I wouldn't say I would never play one, but not currently. It's not on my hit list. What is the number you always seem to roll on a d20? Well, I understand statistics, so I'm not going to answer that question. Best DM you've had? Oh, yes, I know. I think her name was Kate. I went to this convention one year, and this like signing up for games, there was like one game with space, and the game was this office day out, and like role playing being on a works outing, and so I thought, okay, this is the only game with space. I put that down. Got there. The first thing the GM says is she apologised. It's the first time she's ever run a game, and she was quite nervous. And it's like, it's all right. And it was the best damn game I ever played. It was fantastic. it was just so brilliant, such a great premise. All right, the premise I described, the worst day out, not great, but what she did with this campaign, and if I kind of tell you, I've ruined it. Um, but maybe I'll do something similar on my channel one time, and you can kind of see it in action. But yeah, needless to say, my character was running on all fours through the forest and tried to bite people's legs, and I was playing the fat guy from IT. Uh, yeah, hilarious. So the next year, it was a year later, when I went back to that convention and I saw she was running another game, and I just put myself down on the list. It's not one of my favourite systems. Well, I hadn't played that system. It's Monster Hearts, which is based on Apocalypse World, and I think Apocalypse World is empirically rubbish. Um, but I hadn't done Monster World or Monster Hearts. And so I played this game. I was playing this ghoul, and the trait I took allowed me to be killed and come back to life. Like, I couldn't be killed. And I think people often use that as a power game type thing, but like, listening to the tone of how it's supposed to be played, it's supposed to be a bit Buffy-esque and a bit about teenage discovery of, sex, sexuality, and dealing with your demons, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of theme of the game. So I decided to use the fact that I couldn't die for the purpose of self-harm and suicide. My character was constantly committing suicide. Well, I'd say constantly. I think I did it once, possibly twice, not sure. But it was hilarious. It was like, if the playing the fat guy from IT was the best role-playing game I played, I'd say that was at the very least top 5, possibly top 3. So yeah, not entirely sure of her name. If she's watching this, she'll probably remember just from what I've described. But you were awesome. Thank you, Kate. Possibly Kate. That's what I should call her. Possibly Kate. So those are the 30 questions. So that's kind of about me and role playing and stuff. And I see my lighting in the room isn't quite right because I keep getting a green screen flicker up in the corner. I'm going to change all this around for when I run the game next year. So my arms don't disappear when I do this. Because I'm currently handless. So it's all going to be moved around. And hopefully I'll get the lighting a bit better on the green screen. So until then, these are the characters. I'll be playing the Return of the Winged Trinity, which is going to be, as I say, a different tone. Be much darker, much more tragic, and I've got some cool things planned. It's going to begin with a dragon war, and how cool is that? Animated character overlays, yay! So I hope you enjoy it. It's kind of going to be it for me over the Christmas period. I'm not doing videos over the Christmas period. I kind of did this one just because, well, I had a bit of time tonight. But yeah, I've got lots of stuff to do over Christmas. So I don't think you'll be seeing much more from me until then. Won't be any tips videos and stuff over Christmas. But come January, a new GM tips series starting in January. New game, which will be running. I think we're going to do it fortnightly, possibly every 3 weeks or something. So I can squeeze other things in on my channel and stuff, so it doesn't take over. And yeah, it should be good fun. And all the usual content you come to expect from my channel will be coming back. So yeah, until then, and bye. And I haven't done waving animations for these guys. Maybe I should have. Anyway, that's kind of it. So bye.